Yeah, we're live. Set my camera down. Should be good about there. I'm going to discuss some Wing Chun. I'm waiting on some food right now because I just stopped by and got some food for my family and got a bunch of kids for babysitting. I just want to discuss some Wing Chun. These are some issues in Wing Chun. So the other day, a Muay Thai fighter saw some of my videos where I was pointing out that a lot of these Wing Chun fighters are not really Wing Chun at all. And he made a point that I wish that somebody else would do. See, half the stuff that I'm saying is just to communicate the stuff and get it out there. And the majority of a lot of the people, they just troll. They don't want to carry conversation. Now, there's been a few people who have carried on some good conversation and talked and everything. But a Muay Thai fighter got on there and said, "Hey, Mr. McComas, I appreciate you being a spokesman for Wing Chun." First of all, I don't consider myself a spokesman for Wing Chun, but I know what he was saying. And then he goes, "My Muay Thai fighters and myself would love to get our hands on some Wing Chun masters for training purposes. We'd love to spar with them. So who do you recommend?" And he points out that I'm dismissing all these other videos and these people. And he's got a point. This is a double-edged sword, this topic. And what that means is, although I can cut the debate with this sword and show that all of these videos that are MMA versus Wing Chun, the majority of them are not Wing Chun, it also hurts me and other Wing Chunners because it's a double-edged sword, because it can come back on us. Because when this Thai fighter asked this question, I said, "Hey," and I put it in the comments, and I said, "I'm going to be brutally honest here. There is nobody." Now, there's a couple of people like Alan Orr and that Sean Waboski or whatever his name is, and a few others who they say they're doing Wing Chun in their MMA, and you can find some Wing Chun in their MMA, but they're not under the flag of MMA. They're not trying to show what Wing Chun can do. So this becomes a problem, because as soon as they beat somebody, all anybody has to do is say, "Well, you beat me and you didn't use Wing Chun," and they would be correct. When you look at Alan Orr's group, they're all great fighters. They're well trained. He's got a ton of videos. The problem is, he sits there on video and says everything is Wing Chun. Now, there's this saying with Wong Chun Ling and other martial artists within Wing Chun and all these sages of Wing Chun and these fighters, and they all say, "Don't be a slave to Wing Chun." And what they mean is, don't be a slave to the techniques, but you got to understand the principles. If you understand the principles, your techniques can have very many different variations. This is why we can look at all the different types of lineages of Wing Chun. They look a little different here and there, but the majority of them, the majority of the Wing Chun out there follows the principles. We can even take a fraud like Ling Ting. His entire system is fraudulent. He lies about his calls. He lies about his training. And so we know that he's not really a Wing Chun student or master. But we can even look at Ling Ting and see that he's actually applying principles in a majority of his Wing Chun. The only reason that he's a fraud and false is because it's like somebody coming out of the woodwork from nowhere just claiming to be, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt when they're not. And they just open up a school, and let's say they have decent judo and decent jiu-jitsu behind them, and they make some weird stuff and they make some goofy stuff. And it's not all Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Some of it is, but it's the same concept. All the BJJ people out there would call the guy a fraud. They'd say, "Hey, stay away from the school," and understand that. So even when we look at a fraud like Ling Ting, we can still find some Wing Chun principles and laws and theories being acted out and interpreted different ways. But yet Ling Ting is a fraud. And we can do that with him, but we can't do that with the majority of these MMA fighters who are claiming to do Wing Chun. Sadly, some of these guys jumped on the Wing Chun bandwagon. They like Wing Chun for whatever reason, and they don't want to use Wing Chun in the ring or the octagon, but they say they are. So when this Muay Thai fighter was asking me, okay, well, who do you recommend that we fight? I couldn't think of a damn person. And it's a double-edged sword, because by me saying there are no fighters professionally fighting who use Wing Chun, then it also makes Wing Chun look bad, because then anybody can say, oh, well, if there is nobody fighting in Wing Chun, then why even freaking train it? Well, there's hundreds of martial arts out there. They are not all in competition fighting. That doesn't mean that they don't have a place in these competitions. And I do want to say that that idea that Wing Chun cannot go into the octagon because it's too deadly, that's kind of a cop-out. What I would say is that a Wing Chun master would have to relearn how to fight with his Wing Chun in the octagon, especially in UFC, because there's 843 rules. So he'd have to relearn counters and everything. He'd have to relearn, because a lot of the things that we do are illegal in UFC. So it's not that he's too dangerous for the ring, it's that everything he would do, the ref would be blowing the whistle. He'd be winning the fight, and they'd be saying, oh, well, that's an illegal move, that's an illegal move. And a lot of these MMA fighters are bred in their original training to go along with the corresponding rules, and that's the problem. It's the same thing when you're talking about learning how to street fight versus boxing. When you learn boxing, you're learning boxing from the boxing rules. You learn how to street fight from somebody. If someone's teaching you, like say you're in a gang or a mafia or whatever, and they're just street fighters and they're learning how to just teach you how to beat the shit, you don't have rules. So UFC has so many rules. So this idea that Wing Chun cannot fight in competitions because it's too deadly, I'm telling you, that's a cop-out. And I'm a Wing Chun man myself. I love Wing Chun. But when people say that, that's a cop-out. What they should say is that you would have to relearn everything, and that would be a pain in the ass. Because you would literally have to think too much in the fight. You'd be ready to counter someone because it's your natural reaction, and you'd have to think, stop, I can't do this because they don't allow this. There's so many rules in UFC. So many. Another thing is those big-ass gloves. Now, I know a lot of Wing Chun people do spar with gloves on, but the majority of us, when we're sparring, we're using the smaller padded gloves so that we can grab with our fingers and make different hand movements. When you're using bigger boxing gloves, the human body isn't made with giant balloon hands, okay? So when you have giant balloon hands, that's, it throws off some of your Wing Chun with some of the momentum and some of the bone structure behind it, because it's just weird. And it takes time to learn how to put your Wing Chun into play with someone who's wearing big boxing gloves. Now I'm talking about boxing gloves. I'm not talking about the smaller official, like Century Magazine type karate gloves or MMA gloves with the fingers, and I'm talking about the bigger boxing gloves. It is different. The majority of Wing Chunners will light spar, and they will always light spar without gloves, because you're learning skill to come up and come close to hitting someone or barely hit them without hitting them hard. So the idea is you're learning the skill and the control of your fist. I got my food coming out. Give me a minute.
Here you are, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about your wait.
Oh, you're all right. You're all right. You're all right.
Have a nice day.
Yep. You too. Thank you. Okay, so I got food for my family. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and drive, and hopefully this doesn't move over. So I'm still doing this live, but I just want to discuss this. The problem with saying the truth about Wing Chun, that there are no Wing Chun official fighters who are professional, keyword professional, that are using Wing Chun, kind of makes it seem like, oh well, then we don't have any representatives in the show, and that's true. But it also cuts down all these arguments of, oh well, we have empirical evidence that Wing Chun can't do shit in the octagon and MMA and blah. No, you don't, because 99% of the videos that these fanboys show are not Wing Chun. It's freaking ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Some of these Chinese fighters are under the banner of Wing Chun. Some of them are not even using Wing Chun, and they're getting labeled as Wing Chun in the United States. Go figure that one. There's a ton of them that's doing a Taekwondo and a karate variation or style, and they get labeled over here on YouTube as Wing Chun. So this is a double-edged sword. What does it mean for Wing Chun? It doesn't mean nothing. If you think that Wing Chun can't fight, then you don't understand Wing Chun. All these people who are sitting there saying, oh, well, you need to prove. No, I don't, because I spar with people all the time. I and my friends, I know plenty of Wing Chun people. There's the Indianapolis Wing Chun group, and I kind of know them here and there. I've kind of talked with a few of them, Clint and Sean and all of them. I've talked with them here and there, and they invite anybody to come out there and spar with them. So when somebody sits there and says, oh, well, it doesn't work, they're full of shit. Maybe you're fighting someone with less than a year of Wing Chun, or even less than 2 years of Wing Chun, and maybe they don't know what the hell they're doing. Maybe they're still super robotic. I don't know. I don't know what else to say to you. But for anybody to sit there and say that it doesn't work, that's telling the Wing Chun artist himself who does spar that it's all pretend. So every boxer, every kickboxer, every karate, taekwondo, every jiu-jitsu, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu person that I've sparred with and beaten, when somebody on YouTube, and of course they're YouTube, when somebody's on YouTube being a keyboard warrior and saying that it's up to us to show proof and that there's no way that we can fight, you're basically calling all of our practice and our hard work and our training a fraud, and you're claiming it didn't happen. I mean, that's ego. That's within the range of ego. A fighter, it fights a fighter, period. It's not style versus style. There are some really shitty styles. Yeah, I'll agree with that, but Wing Chun isn't one of them. Not by far. But if you take something like Capoeira looks odd. It's a little off. But if you get somebody who's super athletic, who's done a ton of cardio, they know what they're doing, and they're in Capoeira, then yeah, in a street fight, they can make that stuff deadly. But if you take the average Joe with a year of Capoeira and, you know, he tries to use that in a fight, he's going to look clumsy. And a lot of these fighters that everybody points to and says, oh, well, this is Wing Chun, they're not. So it's a double-edged sword for me to sit here and tell the truth, and the truth is there are no professional Wing Chun fighters right now in any kind of competition fighting. So they may be using some Wing Chun, and then you've got Alan Orr's group. Go check him out. He's a good guy. He's got great fighters, but my opinion is he's not doing Wing Chun. Because there's principles and techniques behind all this stuff, and he's not even doing the techniques, he's not even doing the principles, and he prefers to do regular boxing and kickboxing and so on. And I'm not bashing Alan Orr. I'm just saying a large amount of his videos are him defending his group and his system and saying, well, everybody's asking, where's the Wing Chun at? I saw one where one of his fighters just brutally beat the shit out of this Asian fighter, and at the end of it, he's just sitting here just elbowing the guy while he's got him on the ground. And Alan Orr kept commenting, oh, that's a Wing Chun elbow. So everybody else was like, what? Because everybody does that elbow, and they didn't understand. And there was absolutely no principles that were different from Muay Thai elbows or whatever. I'm getting ready to come into a congested area, so I'm going to shut this off because I will lose the reception in a second. But the point of it is that Wing Chun follows principles, and you got to not be a slave to the technique. But if you understand the principles, you can come off with various techniques and variations of Wing Chun techniques. That's the point. That's the point of this video. Wing Chun's having some problems in the professional martial arts combat sports, and I'll agree with that because there are no fighters that are using it. So I can't point out anybody. So when this Muay Thai fighter was like, hey, I want a piece of Wing Chun, who should I fight? I can't give him an answer. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. But at the same time, all of the videos that everybody posts on YouTube, they're not Wing Chun. They're not even close to Wing Chun. The majority of them are a Taekwondo or a karate or something. But I'm going to shut this off, guys. Thanks for watching.